What if I told you that right now, in labs across the globe, scientists are literally playing God, not in some metaphorical sense, but actually writing DNA code from scratch, booting up cells that have never existed in 4 billion years of evolution, and creating organisms that blur the line between natural and artificial so completely that we might need to redefine what life even means. We're not talking about editing genes anymore. We're talking about designing life from the ground up like software engineers, coding apps. And what's coming next is so wild, it'll make Jurassic Park look like a nature documentary. Hit that like if you're ready to dive into the most controversial frontier in science. Because what you're about to discover will either excite you beyond belief or terrify you in ways you didn't know were possible. And honestly, both reactions are completely valid. Here's the mind-bending reality that most people don't grasp, yet life isn't magic. It's chemistry. Strip away all the mysticism and you're left with molecules following rules. DNA storing information like a hard drive, proteins acting as molecular machines, and cells operating like microscopic factories. Once you understand that, the question stops being, can we create artificial life? And becomes, when will we create artificial life? Because the barrier isn't philosophical anymore, it's purely technical. And here's where it gets absolutely crazy. We've already crossed that line. In 2010, a scientist named Craig Venter and his team synthesized an entire bacterial genome from scratch, printed it out chemically base pair by base pair, inserted it into a cell, and watched it boot up and start dividing. They created a living organism whose genetic code was written by humans on computers. Let that sink in for a second. That was 15 years ago. The progress since then has been exponential. And what's happening now makes that milestone look like baby steps. Let's break down what synthetic biology actually means, because this term gets thrown around, but the reality is more nuanced and fascinating than most explanations give it credit for. At its core, synthetic biology treats living systems like engineering problems. Traditional genetic engineering is like editing a book. You find a word, change it, maybe insert a sentence. Synthetic biology is writing entirely new chapters or even new books in languages that never existed. Scientists are creating artificial chromosomes, designing metabolic pathways that don't occur in nature, and even expanding the genetic alphabet itself beyond the 4 natural bases that all life on Earth uses. Researchers have successfully created organisms with 6 DNA bases instead of 4. And these organisms can make proteins with amino acids that natural life can't produce. We're literally expanding the vocabulary of life, and the implications are staggering. Think about it like this: every living thing on Earth is running on the same basic operating system that evolved billions of years ago. We're all using the same genetic code, the same protein-building machinery, the same metabolic pathways with slight variations. Synthetic biology is saying, what if we wrote a completely different operating system? What if we design cells that are immune to all viruses because they use different genetic code? What if we created organisms optimized for specific tasks like producing medicine or cleaning up pollution, or even surviving on Mars? The possibilities aren't just endless, they're multiplying faster than anyone predicted. Labs are now designing biological circuits that work like computer chips, where genes turn on and off in programmed sequences, allowing cells to perform complex logical operations. We're teaching bacteria to count, to remember, to respond to environmental signals in ways that feel almost intelligent. But here's where the story gets personal and urgent. This isn't just academic curiosity, it's solving real-world problems that affect all of us. The pharmaceutical industry is already using synthetic biology to produce insulin, vaccines, and cancer treatments in ways that are cheaper, faster, and more effective than traditional methods. During the COVID pandemic, the mRNA vaccines that saved millions of lives were developed using synthetic biology principles. Scientists designed the genetic instructions, synthesized them, and deployed them in record time. That's just the beginning. Researchers are engineering microbes that can produce spider silk stronger than steel, bacteria that can convert carbon dioxide into fuel, and even cells that could theoretically produce any molecule we need on demand. One team recently created yeast that produces opioid painkillers, potentially solving both supply chain issues and the problems of poppy farming. Another group designed algae that excrete crude oil, offering a path to renewable petroleum. This is science fiction becoming science fact at a pace that's honestly dizzying. Now, let's talk about where the cutting edge really is. Because the breakthroughs happening right now are absolutely wild. Scientists are using artificial intelligence to design proteins that have never existed. AI systems that can predict how amino acid sequences will fold into three-dimensional shapes, and then reverse engineer sequences that will fold into whatever shape you want. This is huge because proteins do everything in biology. They're the enzymes, the structures, the signals, the machines. Being able to design them from scratch means we can create biological tools for any purpose we can imagine. One research team used AI to design an enzyme that breaks down plastic in hours instead of centuries. Another designed proteins that self-assemble into nanoscale structures that could deliver drugs directly to cancer cells. The technology is advancing so fast that by the time you're watching this, there's probably been another breakthrough that makes what I just said sound outdated. But we need to address the elephant in the room. The ethical implications are massive and complicated. When you can design life, who decides what gets created? What are the risks of releasing synthetic organisms into the environment? Could this technology be weaponized? These aren't hypothetical concerns, they're active debates happening right now in scientific communities and government agencies worldwide. Some researchers are calling for strict regulations and international oversight, arguing that the potential for misuse is too dangerous to ignore. Others argue that overregulation will stifle innovation and prevent beneficial applications that could save lives and solve global problems. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. We need guardrails, but we also need to move forward. Because the problems synthetic biology could solve: climate change, disease, food security, pollution are too urgent to pause for perfect consensus. Here's the part that should blow your mind. Some scientists think we're on the verge of creating entirely new domains of life. Right now, all life on Earth falls into three domains: bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes. What if we created a fourth? What if we designed organisms so fundamentally different from natural life that they represent a completely new branch on the tree of life? Some researchers are working on mirror-image life forms where all the molecules are backwards from natural organisms. These would be unable to interact with or infect natural life, making them potentially safer for industrial applications. Others are exploring silicon-based biochemistry or alternative genetic systems. We could be standing at the threshold of not just understanding life, but diversifying it beyond anything evolution alone would ever produce. Let's push into pure speculation territory with a scenario that's closer to reality than you might think. Picture this: it's 2035, and a biotech company announces they've created a synthetic organism designed specifically for Mars colonization. This organism can survive in the Martian atmosphere, uses the planet's minerals and trace water to grow, and produces oxygen as a waste product while building up organic soil from Martian regolith. They release billions of these organisms in a controlled Martian valley, and within years, there's a breathable atmosphere pocket and fertile soil where humans could potentially grow food. Meanwhile, back on Earth, another team has deployed synthetic microbes that are reversing ocean acidification by efficiently converting dissolved carbon dioxide into limestone, literally rebuilding coral reefs faster than climate change can destroy them. In hospitals, personalized medicine has reached a new level. Doctors take a sample of your tumor, sequence its genetic vulnerabilities, and within days, design and grow synthetic viruses programmed to hunt down and destroy only those cancer cells, leaving healthy tissue untouched. These aren't distant fantasies. The foundational technologies exist right now, and the trajectory is clear. But here's the counterpoint that keeps scientists up at night. What happens if something goes wrong? What if a synthetic organism escapes containment and outcompetes natural species? What if someone with bad intentions uses these tools to create a bioweapon? What if we create something we can't control? These risks are real, and pretending they don't exist would be irresponsible. The scientific community is actively developing safeguard switches built into organisms that prevent them from surviving outside controlled environments, genetic firewalls that prevent synthetic organisms from exchanging genes with natural ones, and monitoring systems that could detect and contain any release. Recent conferences on biosafety have brought together biologists, ethicists, security experts, and policymakers to develop frameworks for responsible development. The debate isn't whether to proceed, it's how to proceed safely. There's also a deeper philosophical dimension here that we can't ignore when we create artificial life. Are we crossing a line that shouldn't be crossed? Different cultures and religions have varying perspectives on this. Some see it as humanity fulfilling its potential as creators and stewards of life, using the intelligence we've been given to solve problems and improve existence. Others see it as hubris, playing with forces we don't fully understand and risking consequences we can't predict. Both perspectives have merit, and finding the right balance between innovation and caution is one of the defining challenges of our era. What's clear is that we can't put this genie back in the bottle. The knowledge exists, the tools are available, and research is accelerating globally. The question isn't whether synthetic biology will transform our world, it's how we shape that transformation to maximize benefits while minimizing risks. This changed how I see everything about life and our place in the universe. We're not just passengers on this planet anymore. We're becoming architects of biology itself, with the power to heal, to create, to solve problems that seemed insurmountable, but also with the responsibility to wield that power wisely. Synthetic biology represents both our greatest hope for addressing existential challenges and a test of our wisdom as a species. The next decade will determine whether we use these tools to build a better world or unleash consequences we'll regret for generations. Smash that subscribe button for more explorations into the technologies reshaping our future. Drop in the comments whether you're excited or concerned about artificial life, and share this with anyone who needs to understand that we're living through one of the most pivotal moments in human history, because the future of life itself is being written right now in labs around the world. And what happens next depends on choices we make today. The power to create life is no longer science fiction, it's science reality, and that changes absolutely everything.